Let's move on and let's look particularly at Mathys Tel. We did a data video yesterday on Kevin Danso, and we're going to be looking at Tel today. I just want to bring up a couple of quotes that I've seen. So they were asking him on the plane on the way here about Harry Kane, and did Harry Kane tell him anything about Spurs? And he said, he told me this is a big club with a lot of very good people. The pitch is nice, the training centre is very good, and if you go there, you can enjoy it. Everything was very positive from Harry Kane. Didn't say anything. He just said the training ground is nice and the stadium is nice.
Not the players, not the trophy cabinet.
He says you'll go there, you'll enjoy the facilities. That's about it.
What an incredible training ground they have. That's what I was going on about. Obviously, he did kind of was under Ange for a bit, wasn't he, Kane? Only what,
pre-season?
Yeah, a bit of pre-season. I think he only played one game, just that Shakhtar game, if I remember rightly.
He scored 2 goals,
because there
3 goals.
There was the Euros, so he came back late anyway. And then he had that Shakhtar game, scored 4 goals. So I don't know how much we actually saw Ange, but obviously I'm sure he would have told Tel what he knows. But yeah, I mean, that's all he's got nice to say, is he? And he'll maybe mention Sonny. He's like, you got to play with Sonny. Go on, you got to.
And Tel also said that he spoke to Odebear, and Odebear told him, you have to come, you have to come.
You must.
And we know them two are good buddies from the youth ranks at international level. So Agent Wilson doing his best job for the club. And Jamie Redknapp actually spoke about him as well, because Jamie got in contact with Kane, and he said, I messaged Kane earlier about Tel, and he said he's a great guy, wants to work, good trainer, good finisher. He said he's got a lot of potential. So yeah, it's good. With Tel, right, with a lot of the teenagers, we've been like kind of easing them in. You know, Archie Gray got eased in, Bergvall got eased in, Odebear.
Well, Odebear started.
Yeah, that's
straight
right.
away.
Odebear actually started the first 2 games straight away, but we don't know what it would have looked like over the course of a season because, you know, he got injured quite early on. So Odebear actually did get significant game time from the start. But Tel does seem to be that much further along than these kind of players.
Well, he's had 60 games of Bayern under his belt.
Yeah.
I know not all starts, but that's, you know, that's a lot of games for a top club. So this guy, who's probably a lot of them has been in the Champions League. I don't know if he played any minutes against Arsenal last season in like the latter stages, or Real Madrid when they got to latter stages. But he's been on the big occasion. He's scored goals for the Champions League. He's played big games for Bayern. So this is not a kid coming here new to kind of this kind of level. He's used to it. He's played a lot of games at this level. So I agree. I think he comes in a different stage to all those players that we've mentioned.
And in terms of the impact he had for Bayern Munich in his first season, 22-23, 22 appearances, 5 goals, 23-24, 30 appearances, 7 goals, 5 assists, and mainly from the bench. I mean, that's really impressive return. Albeit, you got to think, like, Bayern Munich obviously are very dominant in that league, but that is the year that they didn't win it. And, you know, Leverkusen won the league, but they did still finish second, and they still had, you know, beat a lot of teams that year. So, I mean, coming off the bench and making that sort of impact, yeah, I know you got to say that Bayern are very dominant and they do beat most teams that they play, but still impressive. But this year...
He's still 18 doing it. You know, exactly.
18 doing that. But this year, you know, he's really struggled for any sort of games or impact, and I think his performance level hasn't been as good as maybe the previous 2 years. Only 8 appearances and only 1 assist in there.
Yeah, which is disappointing. How many? Did it say how many starts he's had? Or
no,
doesn't say. Which is disappointing for him, and clearly that's why he wants to move. I don't know whether his performances is something psychological in terms of, is he being frustrated with the level of game time, and that's why when he's on the pitch he's not happy and he's not giving his best, or he doesn't feel like he can give his best. Is he lacking rhythm?
I think only one start in the league.
It's only 1 start. So I think, look, Kompany has obviously preferred the other attackers for one reason or another, and that's deeply frustrated Tel, and that's why he's been desperate to, or he wanted to get out in January and get some playing time. So I think he's shown what he's capable of. He's shown the ability he does have, but he is also quite a raw talent in that sense, and he's still not the finished article by any stretch. He's still a teenager, in all honesty. So as much as he's a serious talent and has a lot of games behind him, and I'm sure can provide impact, don't expect him to be a world-class player just yet, because I think he's not quite at that level yet.
Yeah, Kompany rarely used him as a striker, mainly used him as a left winger, right? And the left wingers that he's been using ahead of him is either Kingsley Coman or Serge Gnabry. And obviously they're season pros and season winners.
Yeah, top players. So it's tough to get in ahead of those players for sure. And also Sane. And I know last season anyway, Sane was playing on the left quite a bit under Tuchel. So this is, you're talking about Bayern Munich. They've got some of the best attackers in world football, a collection of attackers. So, and when you're talking about can he get in up front, you got Harry Kane there, so he's never going to play up front when Kane's fit. So it's always going to be difficult for a teenager to kind of get in there. Albeit Musiala was obviously, I don't know if he's still a teenager, but he's been playing very regularly for Bayern for many years.
Yeah, I mean he's been used as a number 10 this season, Musiala, and he's 21, so he's got a couple of years on Tell.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to say just because you don't make it a top club, even though he's played, he's shown what he can do, you shouldn't write you off at all, because how many times have we seen players at that age move on for game time and become unbelievable players? It's happened many, many times.
This is actually a good point here from Dark Sanji. He says that where is it? Odebear and Tell both went from Company to Ange this season.
That's a good point. It's a good point.
Odebear from Burnley and Tell from Bayern Munich, which is interesting. It's just one of those coincidences.
The winger killer, maybe.
But yeah, I think it's a bit unfair to say that Tell hasn't made it at Bayern Munich just because he's still 19 years of age, and actually as a 19-year-old, 18-year-old, 17-year-old, the impact that he had and the minutes that he had is actually quite impressive.
Yeah, I think maybe he hasn't made it isn't fair, but I'm just saying. Even if you can say like it hasn't worked out or whatever, I think we've seen it so many occasions that there are talented players at top clubs for one reason or other. The top club let them go because they want game time or whatever because they got top players, and they go on to become unbelievable. One example, look at Cole Palmer. At Man City not quite made the grade, but he wanted to move on because he wanted regular game time. Albeit when he did play for City, he was quite good. And look at him now, just absolutely flying. And could he make that sort of impact? I wouldn't expect it, but wouldn't rule it out either.
Yeah, there's loads of players that you can look at. You can look at Kevin De Bruyne. You can look at Mohamed Salah. You can look at all these players.
Yeah, exactly. They're at a very young age. They have a big opportunity. It doesn't quite work out, and then they go for regular game time and they show what they can do. And that's what I think Tell's going to bank himself to do.
Absolutely. So let's go and look at the numbers behind Mathys Tell at Bayern Munich and see what the data shows us.
So I created this. Kind of graph which is split into 4 categories. You've got kind of in the grey you've got his like dribbling ability and possession ability. In the blue is kind of like passing and creativity. In the green on the left you can say shooting ability and how clinical he is, and in the orange / yellow you've got like defending, how good he is, how much he presses and stuff like that. So as you can see quite clearly, his biggest strength on the ball, taking people on, dribbling ability. That's where this is last season, by the way. This is because he doesn't have enough minutes this season to have stats on. So this is how he profiled last season, mainly playing off the left-hand side. And as you can see, unbelievable kind of stats when it comes to dribbling ability. His successful take-ons, his take-on percentage as well is in the 94th percentile. So in terms of his ability to take people on, it's one of the highest in Europe. His touches in the final third in the penalty are really high up, so he gets in really good positions. What's quite interesting is his shot creating actions are fairly low, 65th percentile, but his shot creating actions from take-ons are in the 96th percentile. So that goes to show that he does create really good opportunities from his dribbling ability. Carries as well, he's quite good at carrying the ball into the penalty area and carrying the ball forward as well. Obviously, clearly a big strength here on the left-hand side is shooting. Goals and assists, how many shots and shots on target he gets per game. What's quite disappointing and interesting to see is his XG is quite low. His XG per shot is actually in the 38th percentile, which means he's taking shots from bad areas and maybe he should be taking shots from better positions. That also goes to what I've been saying in terms of he's a bit selfish. He maybe takes shots somewhere there are players in better positions, and maybe he should be finding those players. And that also plays into what you can see on the bottom right here, which is creatively, that's one of clearly his weaker areas. Where he's strong at, it looks like, is crosses into the box, and the amount of passes into the box are fairly high, but his key passes is really low, progressive passes is low, shot creating actions is a bit above average. His expected assists are only above average. It's a bit average, so he definitely needs to work on his creativity and working on creating chances for his teammate. I think that's something he needs to work on. Defensively, is a bit of a mixed bag. What you can see is his amount of tackles he makes in the attacking third is really high. So he's quite a good, maybe a good presser. But in terms of the amount of tackles interceptions he makes in general, fairly low. Shot creating actions from defensive actions is really low as well. So he's not great at turning the ball over and making something of it at the moment. But clearly the amount of tackles he makes in the attacking third there, 88th percentile. So that's something to work with. And I've heard he's quite a good presser. That's what in the research I've done. He's quite a hard worker. So I think there's a lot to work with there. There's a lot of potential, but clearly there's a lot of stuff to work on as well.
Yeah, and there would be for a 19-year-old player, obviously, that hasn't made an international appearance in terms for his country. He's only been playing for the youth level, right? Same with Wilson Odebear. So I think there's always going to be a work in progress there. But when you're looking at him and the stats you just read out in terms of stylistically and what Postecoglou wants, particularly from a winger, like compare him to Brennan Johnson, for example. I mean, he fits the system what Ange Postecoglou wants from a winger a lot more than someone like Brennan Johnson, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think he's got a lot more talent to work with. And when you've got that dribbling ability, yes, he maybe is a bit more selfish and can work on getting with his teammate, combining with his teammates more and creating chances. But as a 19-year-old, that can clearly be worked on and that could be coached. And I think that will happen given time. I think Ange will drum that into him. Maybe as a 19-year-old, when you've got all that talent ahead of you, the likes of Coman, the likes of Gnabry and people like that, Sane, maybe it's a case of when he's on the pitch, he just feels like he has to be the one to score, like he has to prove himself, and maybe that's led to some selfish tendencies from him because he feels like he has to show that he's as good as those players. And maybe
he will have Son ahead of him.
He's going to have Son, but look, if he's been guaranteed game time, hopefully, if he's got those assurances he'll play and he's on the pitch, whether that be on the right, whether it be on the left, hopefully that leads to kind of a play style that he doesn't have to always go for goal. He can go for assist, knowing that even if it doesn't come off or he's not scored in a game, he'll still be playing the next game.
Look, having said all that, right, in terms of, the winger and Son will be ahead of him, blah, 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 like Florian Plettenberg, Sky Germany, saying that his strongest position is up front, is the number 9. Mm-hmm. And with Dom Solanke out till March, and we've only got really Richarlison, and we do have Dane Scarlett now back as well, you would think the majority of his minutes, particularly early on in the next couple of weeks, will be at the number 9.
Yeah, well, we know Richarlison's there, but we know he can't rely on his fitness at the moment to stay fit. So, and he's quite good aerially. I don't know how tall he is, but he actually just scored quite a few headers for Bayern, and he's actually got a really good leap. He's quite good athletically. So, I don't think maybe he has the hold-up play yet, or that kind of stuff that like Solanke or maybe even Rishi does. But he actually, you can whip the ball in and he can win balls in the air. He is actually quite good at scoring headers.
He's 6 foot.
Okay, so he's quite tall. So, I think because he's 19, he's maybe not physically the strongest, but I think for a 19-year-old, he's really strong. So I think as a 9, I think he can definitely be good for us as well. So it'll be interesting to see because the thing is, probably when we first went in for him, maybe Sonny wasn't in the best of form, and now he's in really good form. So it's going to be tough to leave Sonny out. I wouldn't be surprised though if we see Tell on the right as well a lot, because I think we want to give Decky a break. If not a break, first of all, a break, but also want to put him back in the centre. And we've had to play him on the right a lot. And I know it's maybe Tell's least favourite position, but he has played there before. So maybe when it comes to this guaranteed play time, I think one of those positions might be on the right-hand side as well. Because that's clearly a space where there is a space in the team. Yeah, I do think he'll be deployed across all the front three, but it's just a shame if we have to play him predominantly on the right, because that's probably the weakest out of the three where he is. His positions, yeah. Probably. But I
A bit
think
like
maybe,
Mikey Moore, right? Like, we prefer to see him on the left, but we're seeing him a lot on the right at the moment.
Yeah. Seems like everyone except for Brendan, he's the only natural right winger we have, with everyone else, kind of just filling in there.
Yeah.
But maybe he could do a better job than some of the others, like better job than Decky and Moore on that right hand side.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I hope so. I've never actually seen him off the right. I've only seen him off the left or up front.
I've seen some clips of him on the right. He seems like he can do a job there potentially, and maybe it could stop him shooting so much, because off the right it's not the best angle for a guy who cuts inside and shoots. It's more for setting up teammates. So maybe that's something he can work on.
Yeah, but he's definitely a player that will, commit defenders. He'll run at defenders and he'll cause them problems all day long with his speed and his trickery. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I feel like he's definitely a bums off seat player that's going to be adored by the fans.
Yeah. Let's see how he compares to some of our wingers that we currently have. So we've got him. This is last season's Tell compared to how Sonny's been this season. It's quite interesting. Again, you can caveat this because when it comes to the data, obviously Tell is was playing more against tired legs, and he was playing more in latter stages of games and things like that, whereas Son's a different case. But what you can see when it comes to the stats is that dribbling and things like that, Tell is way ahead of Sonny. He beats him in most kind of facets. What Sonny is way ahead of Tell is that bottom right, that creativity, that chance creation for teammates and things like that. Sonny seems to be much better at creating chances and key passes and things like that than Tell. Defensively, it's quite interesting. They're quite similar, but Tell seems to make more tackles and definitely performs a bit better defensively than Sonny. And then when it comes to shooting, they're quite even. In fact, Tell gets off more shots than Son does, but Son seems to be more clinical than Tell, which is not a massive surprise. We know how clinical Son is. Tell has a higher XG, but Son's XG per shot, which means Son's taking shots from better areas, I think. So that's quite interesting. Shot creating actions, Tell's way higher as well. So I think it goes to show, again, Tell's going to bring something different to what Sonny brings. Son, this season anyway, has been a much more creative force than Tell, but Tell's much better dribbler, much more likely to take people on and be successful than Sonny is. So definitely brings something different to the team than what Son does.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're looking for, though. We're looking for something different. We're looking for someone that can take on a man. We're looking for someone that can just consistently be a threat down that side. Just go again, go again, go again. Someone with fresh exuberance that really knows how to commit his defenders. And I think that's exactly what he's going to bring. And I think Sonny has actually done that over the last couple of weeks. He's found some sort of new sense of energy, Sonny, over the last couple of against Elfsborg, right, in that first half. That's exactly what we saw and what we want from our left winger to do. But he hasn't really been doing that all season. But I think that's what Tell's going to bring on a consistent basis.
Let's see if he compares to Brennan on this chart. So what you can see here is very much when it comes to, again, the dribbling side and the possession side and how he keeps the ball and how he takes people on. He's night and day from Brennan. Brennan is way behind. That's the top right corner. You can see he's much better at Brennan than that. What obviously you can see here creatively, they're both kind of lacking. They're both kind of poor creatively, albeit Tell's actually more creative than Brennan. He's got a much higher expected assists and shot creating actions, and he actually performs much better crosses and passes into the penalty area, albeit when it comes to key passes and things like that, chances created, they're both quite low. Defensively, Brennan's a lot better. I think you can see there that bottom left corner, the blue is a lot stronger there, so Brennan performs a lot better defensively. So maybe he does what Ange tells him to do a lot more, but maybe that will go up when Tell plays under Ange. What's quite interesting with the shooting is Tell takes more shots, but Brennan obviously gets in a lot better goal scoring positions. We know he gets in the back post. We know he's good at those back post finishes and the shots across the face of goal from the right hand side, and that's evident there with his much higher expected goals and much higher expected goals per shot as well. Brennan's way ahead. So Tell will take more shots and maybe will look more dangerous, but maybe Brennan's more effective in those areas. Maybe that's something for Tell to work on.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think when you're judging Brennan and Tell, I feel like you'll see that Tell maybe makes more impact in games in terms of, you'll see him a lot more in the game. Like Brennan can go missing a lot, but then turn up with a goal, where Brennan might be maybe a bit more effective, just getting more of those contributions.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think, maybe we know wingers in an Ange system, the role they're asked to do, and once Tells gets used to that, maybe we'll see him popping up at the back post more and doing those kind of things, which I think he'll be great at, because he's very, very strong. So once we get those ball in the box, he's going to be hard to stop. Looking at him up against Timo, so where Timo seems to definitely have the upper hand against him is kind of the creative side. He has better key passes, better expected assists, progressive passes, things like that. That bottom right hand side, he's kind of better. He seems to be ahead of Tell on the stats anyway, when creatively, which we know Timo does set up quite a few chances, to be fair to him. When it comes to carrying the ball, Timo is a bit ahead of Tell, but when it comes to kind of like take-ons and dribbling, Tell's way ahead of Timo. Timo's obviously not the best dribbler. When it comes to shooting and goal scoring, Tell's way ahead of Timo on that kind of top left-hand side. We can see Timo, we know, doesn't get too many shots off.
Timo's a great dribbler when you ask him to dribble it out of play.
Yeah, he's very good at dribbling out of play into space, but when there's a player there, he kind of struggles. And one thing Tell, again, is better than Timo is defensively, it seems, on that bottom left-hand side. Timo seems to block more passes, but all the other stuff, Tell seems a bit ahead of him when it comes to tackles and things like that. Tell seems to be able to win a few more than Timo, which is something that I think Ange has been frustrated with Timo with, that hard work off the ball. He doesn't seem to be his forte. He's not the best presser, Timo. So I think that's something that Tell seems to have over him.
Yeah, and with Timo and that pressing off the ball, it seems to be getting worse and worse as the weeks progress. That's the most frustrating thing is. So, I mean, that's another reason as well why I think Timo will probably be taken out of the European squad, because as much as I thought he was a lot better pressing maybe last season than he is this season.
Yeah, I think so as well. This season just hasn't really seemed to be there. One I thought I'd do comparison is Odebear. Obviously, Odebear's not really played much this season, but comparing him maybe when he was at Burnley last season to Tell when he was there last season. Actually, their profile not too dissimilarly, especially with the dribbling. They're quite similar on the top. So Odebear, in fact, is better than Tell in some aspects when it comes to the dribbling, but their profile very similar kind of from a dribbling aspect, where Tell is way better than Odebear is obviously the shooting and the goal scoring. Obviously, we know Odebear still got a lot of work to do when it comes to that aspect and being effective in the final third, getting shots off and things like that. But Odebear is better than Tell when it comes to the creative side of the game and creating chances on that bottom right-hand side. You can see it's a bit more blue. So Odebear is much better creating chances than Tell is. And defensively, it's kind of even. They're kind of there's some stuff that Odebear does better, but some stuff that Tell does better as well. So quite evenly distributed there defensively. But actually, they don't profile too dissimilarly. Basically, they're both similar dribblers. Just Odebear is more likely to create chances, and Tell's more likely to score goals. That's kind of the difference there.
Maybe they work well together.
Yeah, maybe. Odebear setting up Tell. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, they've done it all through their youth ranks with France, so why not on the pitch at Tottenham Hotspur?
Definitely. And one other one I thought it would be interesting to see is, because there was one winger that I think we all wanted last summer who we all thought was would be perfect for Ange, and that's Pedro Neto. And I thought I'd do a little comparison between Tell and Neto. Neto this season, that is, to Tell last season, and
he's not been that impressive.
He hasn't really, and the stats say, look, Tell has been much better with his dribbling than Neto's been. Which last season, Neto was brilliant at dribbling, but Tell seems to be ahead of him this season with that ability. The goals with the shooting as well, he gets off a lot more shots than Neto. Defensively, does a lot more defensive work than Neto as well. What Neto does have over him is, key passes and expected assists seems similar as well. So Neto's still a bit more creative than Tell. But on the other aspects, dribbling, shooting, and defensively, Tell could even be a better fit than Neto potentially.
That is very interesting, because I thought but this is Neto at Chelsea though. Maybe it'd be more interesting to do the Neto at Wolves, because I think Neto at Wolves was doing a lot more things that would maybe fit the Ange system than maybe what he's doing at Chelsea.
Yeah, but you would have thought it's a better comparison, because Chelsea probably play more similar to us than Wolves would have done last season.
Also true. Maybe not in recent weeks.
Maybe not in recent weeks, yeah. That's also fair. But I think it's very interesting. I think it's a lot to be excited about. I think when you can see how he profiles compared to our other wingers, I think definitely has things that we're missing and adds something different to the front line. Definitely the big thing he has to improve on is that creativity and setting up chances, because that's lacking, and that seems to be lacking against all the wingers apart from maybe Brennan in that we have. So if he can improve that, then there'll be no stopping him. But when it comes to a winger who's got brilliant dribbling ability, who can put in some defensive work, who can get those goals as well, I mean, he's someone who's really going to add something to the forward line.
Absolutely. And, big task ahead of him. He's coming at the most important time of our season. Liverpool on Thursday, which he is eligible to play for, I believe, and then Villa in the Cup on the weekend. So if he can just hit the ground running on Thursday, grab us a goal or something, put us 1-0 ahead, then hit the ground running, and the season is his oyster pretty much.
Definitely. And there's a lot to be excited about. I just can't wait to see him on the pitch and see him in that Tottenham shirt. And maybe he can have an unbelievable debut. Let's see.
Number 11 he got,
Number
by
11.
the way. So, yeah, very much excited to see him. I do think he starts on Thursday. Do you think he starts
so.
on the wing or in the 9?
I reckon he might start him on the right.
You reckon?
I reckon, yeah. I reckon he might go for him on the right. Kind of throw a bit of a curveball because he doesn't play often on the right, so maybe Liverpool won't know how to deal with him in a way, wouldn't have planned for it. And obviously with Richarlison is playing in the 9 at the moment, Son is in such good form, don't want to leave him out. And I think also gives us a way to get Decky back in the middle.
I think he's going to start him in the 9. I think Decky will be on the right, Son on the left, and bring Bergvall back in the midfield in the 10. That's what I think he's going to do. But all will be revealed on Thursday, and that is your deep dive into Mathys Tel. Let us know your thoughts on him in the comment section below. Let us know how excited you are